to see my with nowhere home. I am a poor wayfaring stranger.
Let me get a sound check real quick.
I gotcha.
Not me. All right, I was playing the intro and you had your music going. I'm trying to mute me and then mute you, and what a mess. We'll get it figured out.
Yeah, no worries.
You know me. All right, well, I've given everybody kind of a good half hour, 45-minute notification that we're going live tonight. So those that can't make it live will have the recorded option later in YouTube, I believe. The Twitch one may not be recorded, and of course the program here at StreamYard is strictly for the live crew. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on. I'm going to cover a lot of stuff here. Let me start out by saying I apologize for Sunday, everybody. Schedules have been pretty busy. A lot of things going on. There we go. A lot of things going on. Working full time. I think everybody here has got a full time job because that's what we all got to do to survive in this economy. If you're retired, you're probably going back to work. If you're not there yet, you will be. But like Intrepid's going to talk about later, we can either play their game or we can just not participate in it. So let me go ahead and cover some information here just about the program and kind of what we're doing for people that are here that are new. We're just a simple, all civilian, non-agency affiliated intelligence collective, a group of guys and gals that are here monitoring, keeping eyes on everything that's going on in the world around us. For the most part, the reason why we do this is to keep an eye on things. So in case that big thing is going to happen, we can kind of give everybody a heads up on it. A lot of us have been around the world, traveled around, seen a few things, and kind of know what to look for where government, economic, societal, civil service collapse. We've seen that before in other countries or the effects of that, and kind of know how, the things that lead up to that, even in our society, as advanced as we are and industrialized as this nation is. So we're kind of keeping an eye on all I guess I could say all civilian access, open source intelligence, otherwise shortened to OSINT. That's anything and everything that you can find in media, social media, internet, everywhere in the world on a computer. If you have access to any of it and it's available to the public or people that can see it in countries where it's not restricted, that's open source intelligence. There's also human intelligence or HUMINT, signals intelligence, SIGINT, several others, technology intelligence. I mean, there's a lot of different types of intelligence. I got a really great lightning storm going on here, by the way, guys. So if you see a little flash in the camera, that's the lightning out my office window here. Anyhow, we're keeping an eye on things, and we're trying to assess what's happening, do our best to kind of evaluate and analyze the situation as it's happening. The potato in the White House, our local and our national, regional economies, what's happening with the rail, what's happening with the airlines, what's going on with the agencies, what's going on with Joe Blow public, just the average guy on the street. And we want to kind of put all that together and kind of see the bigger picture. And with all you guys here helping us do this and us kind of maybe leading you through some of how to do the things that we do. As you see on the screen right now, we're kind of monitoring and watching a source that we use out of Texas News Service or Studio. And you can access that on Twitch and watch the live feed. He does his own news service. Obviously, the gentleman got sick and tired of lying mainstream media, and he started his own program. Monitors everything going on around the world, not just here in the United States, but overseas as well. with a heavy focus on Ukraine, Taiwan, weather events, geological events, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanoes, probably one or two meteors here and there because he does monitor all the space weather activity as well. Weather is a huge thing. They even have something called weather intelligence. And even in special operations, they have something called the weather operator. These guys actually go out with the special operations teams where there's inclement weather occurring during an operation, and they actually keep their guys alive. And they're not just running around watching the weather; they're running around with a rifle, and they're engaged in the fight just along with everybody else. So that's kind of a really awesome thing that the Air Force does. Give a shout out to the Air Force folks. You guys kick ass and do some neat stuff. So here on the home front, we are broadcasting out of the Denver time zone. Obviously, we're never going to give away our exact location for obvious reasons, but we're going to be doing martial arts hand-to-hand combatives training with some of our local folks. We're going to be doing tactical training, and I'll be regional. I'll probably travel some down to other states in this area in the middle of the United States. We are in the Midwest, Western Midwest, and we're going to travel around and teach classes and teach people how to survive, how to protect themselves, how to protect their families. So putting all that together on top of working full time, putting together sit reps, monitoring the intelligence that's coming across, and just trying to keep up with everything has been a really heavy burden on me personally. I'm sure it is on Intrepid and some others as well. These guys all work full time too. And shout out to all the guys that email me every day and hammer me with all the latest, greatest, everything happening out there so that I can keep up with it. I really appreciate you guys staying on top of it. I know it's not an easy thing to do, but I want everybody to know that it does not go unnoticed. And I hope I express that when I thank you in the emails and the text messages and the secure communications that we use, guys. Appreciate all the help, man. So I'm going to start off tonight with a discussion on the IRS. I'm going to go into some details about Biden and some of the dumb shit that he said. My language is a little coarse tonight. Forgive me, guys. It's been a long week. And, we try to keep the language to a minimum. We do want to be somewhat family friendly, and we're definitely going to do that on our Sunday night show. And again, apologies for last Sunday. It just did not work out. I would have gone on here and I would have been a complete and total mess. My partner was busy, and we all needed a decent weekend just to try to recover. And I actually worked this last weekend. Not that my job is that difficult, that physical, but yeah, I don't get a lot of great sleep at night, and when I do go to work, I'm dragging butt, so it's pretty tough on an old guy. So last Sunday, I think we kind of needed a break. Next Sunday, we're going to pick up on where we left off, and that is definitely a family-friendly program. We're going to keep Sunday nights that way so you guys can get the kids and grandkids in the room, sit down, and we can all get on here and talk and discuss things that are happening in our world and how they relate to biblical scripture. I'm not going to brag who's who and what's what, his background and knowledge and education, but if one of the guys wants to speak up and say, hey, I went to school, I learned this, and this is kind of what I know, that's awesome. But we do have some people here with some background and some knowledge and some really sharp guys. One I will mention is Robert Burke, and he comes on occasionally when we'd love to have him back as well. And he's done a lot of research in the organized religion, so he's a huge asset. And we love Robert because Robert's just good people. He's a good American and a good patriot. So I'm going to start off with the IRS, guys. This came across this evening. Open source intelligence, not necessarily anything that's too classified, too secure, too sensitive. I'm sure I'm going to piss off one or two. I'm going to make everybody else laugh. The IRS, 1,250 employees, and I believe this information is roughly 12, 14 hours old from what I could gather. 1,250 employees at the IRS found willfully delinquent on their taxes. Now, what willfully means is intentionally. They willfully or intentionally frauded the government on their tax forms, what they claim, what they didn't claim, and how that works. continuing on, 300 plus were repeat offenders. That means more than 300 IRS employees, whether they're in CID, whether they're just auditors, whether they just work the front desk and answer the phone. 300 plus were repeat offenders, meaning they'd had attention drawn to them that they were delinquent and had to pay back taxes. Now, to me, it's disgusting to have to say this and hear this, but it's not surprising. People at the IRS are human too. These are Americans. They're just people going to work, doing a job. They have the same freaking problems the rest of us have. But if you're going to go to work for the IRS, you kind of have to set the standard and you have to be a little more responsible, being the fact that you're working at an agency that penalizes the rest of the entire country when they don't do it right. The Inspector General of the Department of Treasury was asked to do an audit and did produce the audit results, and this is the information that came out of that. One of the employees of the 300 would repeat offender of the 1,250 employees at the IRS willfully delinquent was a member of the CID, which is the Criminal Investigative Division. Now, CID, they have CID in the Army, they have CID in other agencies that are not law enforcement specific, but they do have their own internal investigators or law enforcement divisions that investigate internally what kind of activity occurs that may be criminal within their agency. Now, I'm going to repeat Rick Gore on Good Luck America YouTube channel. I'm going to repeat what he said. How much can we trust this information when the government is auditing itself, reporting on itself, investigating itself, and we're supposed to take this information and trust it? So it is my opinion, as I sit here tonight, that we're being told 1,250 employees at the IRS found willfully delinquent. I suspect of the 78,666 currently employed at the IRS, there's a lot more than 1,250. The Inspector General's job is to come out and be honest and transparent with this information, but to think for a minute that they don't also hide information or try to make it maybe less impactful by lowering the numbers. They do at the White House every day, and we'll get into that in a minute. I'm going to continue on with this report that I got in my hands. Again, I believe at the time I got some of this information off of Fox News and just open source this evening and verifying that they're emails. It's about 12 to 14 hours old. The excuses that Fox News was talking about tonight, the excuses that the IRS the investigators were talking to these employees, and the biggest excuse they were given why people were delinquent. They were not familiar with how to use the TurboTax program online. Now, I don't know how many of you out there have used TurboTax. I've used a different tax service. I don't try to do it on my own because I know better. Yeah, granted, it's cheaper. It's probably easier, and I get a really quick refund back. But I also don't want to take chances, so I use a bookkeeper. And but I understand, from my understanding, TurboTax has to change every year. But it's real simple. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3. They kind of break it down. They explain to you in very simple English how to do this or don't do that. But again, at the end of the day, you're the one responsible because you're the one that puts an electronic signature on that program, and you submit that to the IRS through TurboTax. But I understand from a lot of people over the years, TurboTax can be difficult. It can also get you in a lot of trouble. And again, like I said, 1,250 employees made a mistake, but they're saying that it's willfully making mistakes, willfully delinquent and paying their back taxes. I would think that the IRS employees that they're calling willful are people that have back taxes for more than a few years, more than 3 or 4 or 5 years. These people would probably go back a long time. Currently, there are 78,666 employees at the IRS. That is not confirmed, but I got it from another source. Excuses. I mentioned TurboTax. There's another one. Confusion over forms and filling them out. these IRS employees claim that the forms are difficult. It's not easily understood. I can totally understand that. That makes complete sense. But if you work at the IRS, can't you go to one of your fellow employees? Can't you network and maybe get some help filling out your tax form? I'm sure some of the best people that do bookkeeping for anybody live in the Washington D.C. area, or our former IRS agents that live in the cities where these field offices are. And I mean, you can always ask for help. So that sounds like to me that people might have been hiding some of their money, second, third, fourth income streams, whatever the case may be. Those forms are confusing. They keep changing them every few years. They just did a big, huge change when Trump was in there. I don't think it was changed for the better. And then the potato got in the White House and screwed everything up even more. And so with 78,000 IRS agents, 1,250 of them delinquent in their own taxes, willfully, allegedly, I'm going to add that word. They want to hire another 87,000. And they want to arm them. And if you look at your screen tonight, I'm going to show you a little image I pulled up. This is what they want to do. They want to hire these people, just Americans, that need a job, and there's an opening at the IRS, and hopefully they can pass a background, and they're curious, or maybe they're criminal justice students, or whatever the case may be. But here's a picture of the next graduating class at the IRS. Now, I don't know if the specific group of people standing in this picture are in training right now, but I do know this goes with some of the other leaks that have been occurring of people taking video during their training. And so this is supposed to be pretty recent. The picture is obviously pretty fuzzy because it's been passed around so many times. And I'd love to get a clearer picture. And I normally block people's faces out when I put them out to the public, guys. There's a reason I do that. I blocked my face out for decades. I block people's faces out for their own protection and out of respect, because I don't have their permission to use their faces on my platform. But in this respect, these are public employees. These are people that are employed by the state. They work for the people. As far as I know, I mean, yeah, it says police on there. They're obviously law enforcement students or trainees, but they're members of the public. And unless they're working in a specific undercover capacity, which some of them do, I'm sure, they're not supposed to hide their faces. And I've talked to a lot of cops over the years, and it really bugs that shit out of them when these guys go up to a drug bust or, you know, any kind of crime scene, and they're covering their face. Now, I know there's situations where they have to. These guys are working undercover. They're still high profile. They can't allow their identity to get out. Maybe they're a witness to a crime that they have to testify in court of, or maybe they're trying to avoid testifying. I mean, those situations are looked at one at a time individually. But as a whole, these agencies and their faces being out there, like I said, I'll probably make somebody mad tonight, and I may make others laugh. But this is already all over the internet. So I'm not going to take the blame of putting these people's faces out there. They're already out there. It's this picture is floating around everywhere right now. So that is why their faces are not covered, guys. But this is who they want to send to our door. Knock, knock, knock. Put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest. And in that video that we showed, or some of you guys saw on Discord server, the reason they're being, you know, they're playing this scenario during training so they can learn how to approach suspects, and they can talk to them and use the verbal judo and go through all the training that occurs with that. But they're being told, and they're using the scenario language. They're using, you're under arrest for conspiracy. And so I had a couple people ask me questions about what the hell does that mean? Conspiracy is kind of a cover-all charge. Conspiracy is defined as two or more people discussing, planning, or organizing, or otherwise engaged in a plot to commit a crime. Any crime. It could be any crime. State level, local level, speeding down the highway, robbing a bank. Conspiracy is a charge that they stick on you when they don't have anything else. And so, of course, these folks are going through this training class, and they're approaching these other instructors and students that are playing bad guys, so to speak. And they're like, you're under arrest. Put your hands behind your back. You're being charged for conspiracy. And I just found that kind of disturbing and interesting at the same time, that they chose that as the language. It could be you're under arrest for tax evasion, or you're under arrest for failure to appear. They could have told them 1,000 other things to use other than the word conspiracy. And then that video was leaked. We don't know who leaked it. We don't know if they intentionally leaked it. Maybe the IRS leaked it intentionally. Either way, a lot of people seen it. A lot of people are nervous about this whole 87,000 standing army that the IRS is hiring or attempting to hire. And I've heard it from more than one source now, that the IRS has always had problems with recruiting and hiring. And that's not a secret, because all the other agencies have the same issue. A lot of that has to do with people not being qualified or not passing muster to join the agency, or continue through the process of hiring and then eventually going into the training and graduating and becoming an employee or an agent. So that's not a big secret, but I want to mention that. I want to throw that out to everybody, that personally, I don't see him making 10,000 recruits out of the 87,000 that the potato thinks he wants in there, the IRS. The IRS doesn't need 87,000 more employees. They don't. But in the famous words of Dog the Bounty Hunter, Little Hitler, I saw that that news brief today. Little Hitler is standing up the brown shirts, more or less. He's standing up his Nazi party, and he's using the IRS as one arm of that disgusting attempt at eventual takedown and disarming of the American people. That's what this all boils down to. If they're going to go to digital currency, why would they need to hire 87,000 more IRS agents? If they can control your money digitally and cash is no longer worth anything, it has no value, why would they need to hire 87,000 more IRS agents? So let's all ask ourselves that question, and let's try to come up with an answer. I don't think anybody has the answer yet. Other than government has gotten too big, and I mean federal level government has gotten too big and out of control, and it's not their wallet they're opening up and spending all this money on. It's our wallet. And they're enriching a lot of private contractors out there in private business that develop and make the tools that they need for the job, whether it be body armor or pistols or headgear or night vision, all this other shit that the IRS is using that money to purchase. And I think we discussed that before. They're not buying these IRS agents a car, a briefcase, some pencils, number 2, lead pencils. I don't even think we use lead anymore. Graphite pencils, maybe some calculators, extra calculators, a pair of glasses with some tape in the middle, just to make sure they're strong enough to sit on their face and not break, and maybe a pocket protector. They're not buying these IRS agents this stuff. And the interesting part of this is Washington, D.C., this administration has come out and said they are hiring 87,000 more IRS agents. Now, break down the IRS. You've got the auditors. You've got the criminal investigative division. Within that, they have, I'm sure, a forensic investigation team, which is probably a whole lot of people that do forensic auditing. They're not just auditors, but they're forensic auditors. That's kind of a step above. These people are super intelligent, good with numbers, highly qualified to do the job they're doing, or at least they should be. But then now we're in Biden's America, where if you part rainbow dust, you can have a job. You don't need to qualify. You can just show up and you're in charge. So that's kind of scary in itself. But the IRS is not just auditors in law enforcement. It is a lot of different things. There's a girl answering the phone. They all got secretaries. They have people in the IRS that run the motor pool, so to speak. Managers of different levels and divisions of the agency. Somebody's got to work on spending, so they got a spending side. Accounts receivable, so to speak. We're spending, we're buying, we're spending, we're buying. They've got I'm sure they have a bunch of people sitting in office planning flights, getting plane tickets or organizing flights for different agents and different, IRS intelligence people or auditors to travel around the country. They have a whole logistics division, I'm sure. But 87,000 more, what it sounds like is it's 87,000 more employees to work in the criminal investigative division of the IRS, which in turn is nothing but standing up an army, an unlawful, unconstitutional, armed, militant army against the American people. That's what it sounds like to me. And until somebody can prove to me or Intrepid or the rest of us otherwise, I'm going with the obvious. I'm going to look at the facts that we have access to. I'm going to analyze the data that I've seen. I'm going to look at what the IRS is budgeted and spending, why they need so much night vision, why they need so many body armor vests to go with their employees. And I'm looking at the obvious, the data, and I'm saying this is not the IRS hiring auditors. I mean, there might be 10,000 of them that are going to be auditors. There might be a whole bunch of them that never even make muster in the training, and they don't qualify to carry a firearm. Looking at this picture right now, these girls in the background, I see one white, obviously a white girl in the front, and I see what appears to be four, maybe Latino or maybe from an Eastern Asian country. They don't look white. They could be Native American for all I know. But what I see is four girls that look like maybe they're 16, 18, maybe 20 years old. I know you got to be 21 to carry a firearm to work for the federal government unless you're in the military. So if you're going to go work at an agency, you have to at least reach the age of 21. You can't be 18 or 19 and carry a gun and a badge and go work for law enforcement at federal level. You got to be 21 or older. These kids don't look 21 or older. Maybe they are. I can't tell. The picture's not that great. But half these people are probably scared to death of the gun they're learning how to use. And God forbid they ever actually have to go out on the street and use it to protect themselves or somebody else. And they don't perform their job the way they should because they're underqualified, because they're not meeting the minimum standards, but because they have a different colored skin or a vagina or a pee-pee, they get to go out and play cop. And then when the meat hits the road and it's time to get busy and do the job you were hired to do, and you have to pull that firearm and use it, that's a scary thing to think about. There's a lot of people out there wearing a badge and a gun, and they have no business carrying one. None. That's all I got on the IRS for now. I may come back and touch a little bit on it here in a minute, but I'm going to jump through this. And I should do the Rush Limbaugh paper flip. I hope y'all can hear that in the mic. Dan Bongino does that all the time, and it's hilarious. Hey, Rush Limbaugh is a hero of mine. I listened to him since the year 1989. I was, not very old back in 1989. I was a young person, and I was listening to him back then. And I listened to him almost religiously when I wasn't traveling around the world and I could get radio in a radio frequency. I've been listening to Rush Limbaugh for most of my life. A huge influence. Guy had real basic common sense and understanding of how things work in a republic practicing a democracy. And I just look up to him. He's one of my heroes. So Kamala Harris, however the hell you say her name. None of us say it right. She says it. She don't even say it right. She says it different all the time. Her and Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, in name only, obviously. She sucks at her job, and we all know that. They're claiming that the border is secure. Biden says crossings at the border are down. DHS releases the record-breaking numbers the same day. We are at a standing 2,150,378 crossed just in 2022, and we have 3 more months left of this year, give or take a week or so, a little bit more. That's unreal, and that doesn't even include last year. Criminals caught and returned by flights originating or let me reread this, guys. My notes are terrible. Criminals caught and returned. The flights, they're being returned on flights originating to their original country. They're being flown back. 11,000 plus is the number I have. Cost per one flight leaving the U.S., a government taxpayer funded flight taking these people back to their country because they can't come here, runs with an average of let's average this out, 150 passengers per aircraft, and we'll call them prisoners because they're being returned because they can't pass the screening. 112,000 U.S. tax dollars per flight. So you take an average of 150 prisoners being flown back to their country, divide that by 11,000 returns. Those are the numbers I got. Those are hard numbers. The source I got these from, got them from the Fusion Center Intelligence Report. And for those that don't know what a Fusion Center is, go look that up on Google. I'm not going to go into detail on that here on this podcast in the Sitrep. But that's hard data. Those are hard numbers. 11,000 plus right now returned. In other words, they crossed our border illegally, came here, and we put them on a plane to fly them back. Now, in the beginning, we all thought they were only flying them up here. And we found out part of that monkey actually in the Monkey Nation figured out that a lot of them were going to work for Amazon. Now Amazon's laying off thousands of people. Last I heard, 3,000, maybe more. That's an old number, so that may not be up to date. But a lot of these people were being flown up here on work visas to go to work for Amazon during COVID. Amazon saw a huge spike in spending and volume of product during COVID. People were stuck at home, so they had a little money, and they got some free government money from stimulus, and they spent it. So Amazon got pretty busy. Now Amazon's slowing down. They don't have the product to sell. Supply chain shortage issues. The Monkey Nation figured it out, and they were actually able to verify some of these flights taking people out of the country, not bringing them in. So with 11,000 people at $112,000 per flight, I don't know. Maybe Intrepid has this information. If he does, he can speak up and tell us. But I think a civilian airliner, say Southwest Airlines, average ticket to fly anywhere in the country used to be roughly $400. I'm sure it's gone up now, but I could usually get anywhere I needed to one way, $400, give or take $200-300 more for a round trip. And I was just one passenger on a 737, probably somewhere around 100, 150 passengers. I imagine you add that up, and it still doesn't equal $112,000. Maybe it does. I don't know. I have not done the math. I don't have a calculator at my desk at the moment. But I'm just adding those numbers up in my head. If you had shut the border down and not let these people just flood in here, imagine all the money we would have saved. They didn't have to fly back down there. So I just wanted to throw those numbers out, a little intel that I got today. Texas Sheriff now opening a criminal probe into Florida Governor DeSantis. First off, I'm pretty sure the law enforcement in the state of Florida, minus the federal level, is not going to let some sheriff and his deputies from some Texas town and county out in Texas come out there and arrest their governor. Probably not going to happen. There was no crime committed that I can research or figure out by him taking the immigrants and putting them on a plane and flying 50 of them to Martha's Vineyard. I don't see a crime committed there. There's a lot of, again, I guess they could charge him for conspiracy. But it seems like the left completely ignores what's going on at the border in the border towns and 4 of our states, California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. And the only time they speak up and they get excited about the treatment of these immigrants is anytime they think they can blame Trump for putting them in cages when, in fact, that we found out that wasn't correct. That wasn't true. Or they show up to Martha's Vineyard, the home of the former president, 44, the Kenyan, as we refer to him. He drops these 50 immigrants in the Martha's Vineyard. All of a sudden, everybody gets pissed off and excited and mad, and media goes crazy. But no one gave a damn about him before that day. No one on the left, anyway. I think most of the conservative right understands that the the fentanyl that's crossing our border is killing Americans. They understand that the cartels are making trillions of dollars now, human trafficking, charging all these immigrants exorbitant fees to cross the border. And not only that, they're putting dope on them and telling them you can cross the border. You're going to carry these 2 backpacks with you. It's full of heroin. You're going to run it across the border, or cocaine or fentanyl or whatever the hell. I think the rest of us American patriots, conservatives, although we want our border closed and we want these people not to come here illegally, I think we all have a heart. And I don't think any of us want to see human beings suffer or be fed to the cartel, to be used as coyotes or mules or pawns, to be abused. I'm not even going to get into the sexual assaults that are occurring or the people that are crossing the river drowning, trying to get here. These people are risking their lives and they're killing themselves just trying to get to a better life. I don't fault anybody for that. Who I blame and who I point fingers at, and I'm facing east right now, is that son of a bitch in the White House and his entire administration and the traitor Mayorkas and everyone like him, including the other idiot Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States. I'm going to call him out. You people are running the largest human trafficking network known in modern history. This isn't a large migration of people across the border. This is, you've invited them to come here. You've told them it's okay. And in the process, how many thousands or hundreds of thousands of these people have been victims because of the decisions that were made in D.C.? CBP is Customs and Border Protection. DHS is Department of Homeland Security. HSI is Homeland Security Investigations. Department of Homeland Security is an agency. HSI is like their CID division. I got some more information here. DHS and CBP collectively admitting to now 78 suspected or confirmed terrorists have crossed. Actual fusion center data I believe the last data I saw, and I'm not going to confirm this right now, but I'm pretty sure it was over 300. 300 confirmed or suspected terrorists have crossed our border since Biden was inaugurated. Those are the numbers. They do keep track of that. That's a very important and critical number. Those are the ones they were able to capture at the border. Those are the ones that were intercepted while they were trying to cross our southern border. Actual number, 300. If I go by the stats and historical data, and I base that 300 number, just say it's an even 300, and I base that on the volume of people that have crossed, we're looking at least 2,000 or 3,000 terrorists. Roughly. That's a huge guess, but that's about the average, statistically, that have crossed our border and maybe not have been intercepted or caught. No one knows they're here. And after 9/11, you would think that somebody in Washington, D.C., like Christopher Wray at the FBI, the most powerful man in the world, would step up and do something to shut this down and stop this. Interestingly enough, we haven't had a terrorist attack in the United States in a while. There's a lot of speculation as to why that is. These people are being told, just hang on, just hold off, don't do anything, just wait, hide in the shadows. It's not time yet. All the terrorist organizations around the world are sending their people here right now. Are they sending them here with the knowledge that they get here and they have to wait until it's time and then boom, they're all going to go off at once? With farmers hurting right now, with private small business owners and companies hurting right now financially because of this economy, it wouldn't be very difficult to convince one of them to sell you some chemicals out of the back door of their warehouse or their shop or out of the barn at the ranch and the farm. Hey, I need 300 pounds of fertilizer. Will you sell it to me? That farmer or that rancher needs that money. They don't know, and they don't even care. These people wouldn't even care at this point who you are, where you're from. Why are you asking me? The FBI loves to put up these flyers all the time saying, if you suspect something, see something, say something, Let us know if somebody comes in the store and buys too much hydrogen peroxide. In other words, they buy 3 bottles or more. Report them, follow them, get their license plate, take a picture, and let us know. People aren't going to do that right now. People don't trust the government. So if some Yahoo decides that, hey, I want to learn how to fly planes, he's not going to tell you into buildings, but hey, I want to learn how to fly planes. I need to learn how to take off. Don't need to learn how to land. It's that kind of shit pre 9/11 that got us in the trouble that we got into. And so that being said, these people are here. They're hiding in the weeds. God knows where they're at, what inner city slum they're living in, hiding in the basement of a big apartment complex in the projects, building God knows what, doing God knows what, being funded by God knows who. So that's something to think about. We're being attacked. We're being invaded. This is an invasion. I think the state of Arizona just decided that they're going to make an official declaration of invasion. That's almost one step away from a state saying we are separating from the Union. We're no longer part of the United States. We're going to become our own country, sovereign territory. Don't come here. Get your federal agents out of here. Piss off. We don't want you. We don't want your money. We don't want your law. We're going to take over and shut our border down. That's the next step. Texas has threatened to do it already. Arizona is not threatening. They're actually taking action. And if that's what it's going to take to protect their people down there and to shut that border down, that's going to happen. But I can promise you the federal government's not just going to sit by idly and not do anything about that. They're going to make threats and may become physical. They're definitely going to cut off the money and the funding to these states. That means poor people that live in these states are not going to get their HUD housing money every month. They're not going to get their food stamp SNAP program money every month. And when the Feds shut the bank off, they're going to shut the bank off, period. And that's the problem with this country is a lot of states they've been forced to be reliant on government money. And when the government says, fine, we'll give you funding to support your food stamp program. And then they turn around and say, well, now you're going to follow our rules because we gave you money. Now you have to do it this way and do that and do this, or you don't get no more money. And these states follow the rules. So that's just something I wanted to cover tonight. I'm going to go through 4 quotes from Biden real quick, and then I'm going to let Intrepid take over. How's my audio there, Intrepid?
Loud and clear.
Roger that. Biden's quotes of the day. I'm not even going to bring up the fact that he was too chicken shit to say it himself, so he put it on DOD, Department of Defense, to inform the United States military, active and reserve, to go get on SNAP program, which is food stamps. So, in the one hand, the guy's talking about how great our economy is, the greatest recovery in the history of this nation. At the same time, he's telling DOD to go tell all the troops, get ready to go on food stamps. Things are going to get bad. At some point, we can't blame this on his degenerating brain, Alzheimer's, whatever you want to call it. At some point, we can't use that excuse anymore. Because this guy's been given every freaking excuse in the last 48 years he's been in public service. And I wouldn't even call what he's done public service. Let's start with the first one. COVID pandemic is over, but remains a huge concern. White House walks it back. They had to go clean that mess up out of his mouth. Second quote, if China attacks Taiwan, U.S. military will intervene and act. Now, keep in mind, these are not exact word for word verbatim quotes that this is from memory, guys. I've been working all day. I hear it on the radio. I see it real quick on my email and my text. And so I'm just throwing this out as rough quotes. If China attacks Taiwan, U.S. military will intervene and act. White House had to walk that back. Not even a month ago, Secretary of Defense had to come out and say, and unfortunately Blinken actually said it, the U.S. military has no obligation. We have no plans or designs on defending Taiwan. So Monkey mentions all the time the fog of war. war and rumors of war. This is all part of that. It's constant confusion. You got your leadership saying one thing, and then the next day that same leadership saying something else. It's all part of the plan. Keep everybody dumbed down and confused so you don't know what the hell to expect. And we don't right now. Are we going to protect Taiwan or not? We got a shitload of boats over there and ships in that water surrounding that island. We got more than half our U.S. Marines over there. Are we or are we not going to do what we have agreed to do? We don't have a treaty agreement. We have a handshake agreement to protect Taiwan. This is the next quote. Rail strike has been averted with my tentative deal. Inside information I have on the tentative deal that Biden made with the unions between them and the rail companies. Union states no agreement to the tentative deal. Strike planned for the 30th September or beyond, not specific enough. The union is not okay with the tentative deal that Biden put down. Now, my understanding is, and this is coming from a ton of sources in the rail industry, rail unions and the rail corporations already had an agreement. They negotiated down from 55% salary raise down to 24%. And the union said, okay, we'll agree to 24% with these benefits and this specific and that specific. And the lawyers took that and were ready to go negotiate the deal out between themselves and write it all up and make it official. And Biden stepped in and got involved and said, go ahead and threaten. And this is just what I'm being told. The White House wants a strike. The White House wanted to push that. And maybe this was an attempt to make Biden look like he came in and rescued him. That's what it sounds like to me. Partly that, but also partly this is all part of the drawdown of our economy to have us begging in lines at food lines when FEMA shows up with food trucks. In my opinion, that's what's happening there. The last and final quote from the idiot in charge. Inflation has made us stronger, and we are seeing it change for the better in the strongest economic recovery in American history. He said this while he's attending a car show, showboating in shithole Detroit, the same day the Dow Jones rockets down 1,275 points, lowest in 40 years. That's based on the information I have. I'm not a market guy, but Intrepid is, and he's got eyes on that better than I do. And I'm going to leave you guys with those 4 quotes and one more thing I want to bring up that I think is very important that I need to talk to you guys about tonight. And if you're still here, this is going to make it well worth being here tonight. I've got confirmation because I still talk to a lot of people I know in the military and friends of mine that are still stationed all around the United States, active duty and reserve, Navy and Marine Corps, Army and Air Force, and all the above, minus the potatoes over at the Space Force. I don't know any of them. But what I do know and what I'm being told is there are classes that are going on right now at MCRD San Diego. That's Marine Corps Recruit Depot. That's where you go through boot camp before you can go become a Marine. That's where you become a Marine. I'm being told there are classes, and they've had to separate the classes from, and this is also in Parris Island, the East Coast. They're separating the classes, English and non-English speaking recruits. They've got full classes, full boot camp classes. They're going to graduate. And none of these Marines speak English. And that's why they're in a separate class. They've segregated them. Our Marines that are in the Marine Corps right now that are getting ready to graduate, I have some friends out there that actually have sons that just joined up. And I can't tell you guys how hard I pray for those kids every day. Because, and they're probably maybe even here watching this Sitrep tonight. I got an opportunity to be around these young men a little bit and kind of get to know them a little bit for a brief time. And they're going to be damn good Marines. They're damn good kids. And they come from a damn good mom and dad. And dad was a Marine. They're sending our Marines over to the Asia Pacific, and they're piling them on over there, as many as they can get. They're sending our Army by the hundreds of thousands now over to Europe. It is my feeling, and I'm going to make this as blunt and clear as I can say it. It is my feeling that our troops are being sent out of this country, being replaced by immigrants that are being told you can be an American citizen, just go do your 2 years or 4 years. And they're being replaced, and they're building a standing army in the United States to take down the United States citizen, Second Amendment gun owner. I mean, the writing's on the wall. Now, Ukraine's a good excuse to send a whole lot of our military over there, but 2/3 of our United States Army, I want y'all to think about how many people in the United States Army in a time of civil conflict would stand by the American people and live by their oath. The oath that they took when they raised their right hand and swore to protect the Constitution of the United States. How many of those men and women would stand by the American people and not follow illegal orders from the United States government? And if you send them all away, who's going to stand with the American people when we stand alone? So that's just some food for thought. I wanted to share that tonight, but I have confirmed they do have segregated classes going through boot camp right now. Recruiting numbers are down, so they're obviously when this leaks out, when this breaks and it hits major media or the other folks doing podcasts start putting this out, and that information's on the street, the excuse will be that we had to bring the immigrants in to maintain our military strength and numbers of recruit personnel because we don't have enough kids in this generation that want to join the military. And the recruiters are having a hell of a time getting these kids to sign up. The next step's the draft. Right now, they're allowing kids to join the Army with no high school education, GED, or diploma. Now, there's a waiver they got to fill out. It's all the bureaucratic bullshit and certain specific things they have to qualify and meet. But at the end of the day, no diploma, no GED. Come on, join the United States Army. We'll take you. Yeah, we're looking at a global conflict. The president in Serbia, not that he matters much, Serbia, I mean, really, Serbia, came out today and said in 2 months we will be in a global conflict. The writing's on the wall. This White House wants a war. Unfortunately, a lot of presidents see themselves more as a wartime president than a peacetime president. I got to give Trump this. Whether you like Trump or not, Donald J. Trump he did everything he could to be a peacetime president. He wasn't looking for a war. He wanted to shut that shit down, bring our guys home. But he wanted to do it the right way. And certain things had to happen in Afghanistan for HKIA went down and Kabul fell apart and we lost 13 of our brothers and sisters, our warriors. So I'm going to let Intrepid take over from that. But I damn sure wanted to get that out to you guys tonight because it's one of those little things that's bothering the hell out of me and it needs to be spoken about. It needs to be covered. Go ahead, Intrepid. It's all yours, brother.
I don't know if I could follow up on all that stuff. Jeez.
Well, and by the way, guys, me and Intrepid don't sit here and go over our notes. I mean, we're cracking right out the door with this raw and unedited because it is who we are. Maybe Intrepid might actually prefer a little bit of pre-show editing. I don't know, but I kind of like to just come out raw.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Be unpredictable.
Absolutely.
So.
Never get yourself in a predictable pattern. You're too easy to find and you're too easy to know and understand.
And that's
Change it up.
That's all education's all about, to make you predictable. Anyways, yeah, one of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately is how to respond to all this. What do we do? What's the next step? I mean, the United States is failing. Western civilization, I think, is failing. And yeah, I think it's partially due to the incompetent leaders, so-called leaders that we have. I always like people saying our leaders. We don't have leaders. We have representatives. But I think more than that, we're failing to ourselves. Most people I know in this country don't actually live. They exist. They go in their little cubicle, they get their paycheck, they go buy crap, and that's life. That's not life. I don't know what the hell that is. That's barely existing, but people are either are too overwhelmed or too afraid to consider doing something different. And that's an individual choice, but I would highly recommend to do different things. I mean, if we're free, we have a moral capacity, a moral obligation to refuse to be a victim or to be an executioner. But we currently live in a culture that no longer values truth or beauty, but power and wealth. Um, Imagine Abraham was talking about the IRS and all these things about money and how to exchange money and who gets money and who's not paying money. Imagine if money wasn't an issue anymore. None of these people would have power over you anymore. Uh, there's no pursuit of knowledge anymore. Only the wanting to be part of this new aristocracy, the Kardashians, and all this other crap, and the illusion of all these meaningless choices that we have. My God, you go into Walmart and there's 87 different types of peanut butter. Who cares? We're indoctrinated to accept that we need to be educated the right way, which of course means to be obedient and passive with a narrow perspective and distrust of anybody that has any independent thought. And how can we possibly dream of any peace when our own thoughts aren't free? We allow ourselves nowadays to live in a high surveillance, technically advanced police state. We live in a police state. That's pure and simple, where people are collateral damage, and we oppose severe prosecution and persecution to vulnerable people and downtrodden people. They're beneath us. We laugh at them. We continue to leave in these morons we call our leaders, who, through their constant artificial crises and problems, nevertheless can't solve anything that they create. Uh, we're not morally autonomous anymore. And as a consequence, freedom and peace are never attained. They're just empty promises. We've created a culture of fear and intimidation. It starts when we're kids in school, to fear the state, to fear the police, to be subordinate to the interest of our masters, our ruling class. It's all crap. Peace with other people, with other countries, and even peace within ourselves is only going to happen when we're free, real freedom, not some illusion of meaningless choices. Freedom will only exist when each one of us comes to understand our true deep self, who we are, what we're meant to be, not just, again, living on a hamster wheel, doing what society says we should do. And we spoke about that. I could go on all that. My theory of our three great relationships, how you relate to yourself, how you relate to other people, and how you relate to your God, all of which, of course, right now in our culture are being dissected and eradicated. Freedom can't happen when the motivation is fear. And we live in a country right now where we're totally motivated by fear. That's all we talk about. Be fearful of this, be afraid of that. And as a result, we don't live, we exist. So I think maybe one of the ways that we have to respond to this is we got to go out and actually live, do things. Screw this stuff. How big of a house do you actually need? How many cars do you need? How many flat screen TVs do you need? I know Abraham and I get a big kick out of my last 4 years. I actually worked a little bit. I bought a small 36-foot sailboat for about $30,000 and spent 4 years sailing around planet Earth on my boat. I left the country with $500. Somehow I did it. I don't know how the hell I did it. All rights, I should have been, down there in the deep with Neptune, but maybe there was a guardian angel that looked over me, but I really had no experience in doing that before. I do now. I mean, I managed to become a Coast Guard master mariner out of all this. But yeah, people you don't have to necessarily follow what I did, but it was just a dream I had and I followed it. And boy, did I get a lot of flack from that. Why are you doing this? You should be working. You should be doing what you're supposed to be doing. You should be following the rules. What rules? I mean, if I'm not free to make my own decisions, my own life, I'm just going to be miserable. And I think that's partially where we're at today. People are not free. They're taught what's supposed to be in their best interests, what's supposed to be in their family's best interests, in their community's best interests, in their country's best interests. And as a result, they live, lives of quiet desperation, to paraphrase an older phrase. So, yeah, I think we're failing ourselves. None of us are willing to go out and actually live. We're too afraid to live. Every time we go out, we're being told, don't do that. I always find it kind of interesting how we love all these old Western movies and movies where you got the adventurers going out and going against all odds and somehow surviving and making it through to the end. And I mean, that's gold in Hollywood. At least it used to be before woke Hollywood. But at the same time, you listen to everybody say, "Oh, don't you do that? No, 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 no. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be in your cubicle and be predictable and do what we tell you to do." So maybe now is the time, since the shit's hitting the fan anyways, to be a little more true to yourself and do what you want to do. I've got lots of direct experiences with that, with people holding this financial carrot over your head, this blackmail. Oh my God, if you don't pay this bill on time, we will. And if you don't do that, we will. And your credit score. And until you actually stand up and say, you will what? You want my house because I'm behind in a mortgage payment? Here, take the key. And it's amazing how quickly the banks and everybody change. Say, oh, no, 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 we don't really want that. What are you doing? Well, I'm doing what you told me you wanted me to do. So maybe it's time to call their bluff. Uh, actually, to collapse the system in this country would be pretty easy. But once again, we don't have the collective will to do that. And I'm not suggesting we do that, but I know I've made comments in the past, such things as a mortgage holiday. God, just imagine if 1 million people decided on one particular month they weren't going to pay their mortgage. The banking system and the government would be shitting in their pants over that one. Or imagine if 1 million people just started to pick on a government agency and write letters, certified mail, return receipt requested, asking itemized questions about management policies that those agencies are making, and then examine the agency's written response to you for contradictions in law and logic. You paralyze these agencies. So it's actually pretty easy, I think, to regain control of our country, but nobody's willing to do it. Everybody lives in a state of fear. And so the question then becomes, how do you respond? Do you agree with all this? Obviously, we don't agree with the ruling elite. I laugh at it anymore. It's beyond comical. They're too powerful to fight against, at least actively. I think we could certainly have a lot of passive resistance. You're not going to get in trouble for passively resisting. Hey, IRS, you want a form? I'll fill out a form. I didn't make any money last year. Why? Because I was too busy having fun sailing on my sailboat. What do you want me to do? What rule did I break? But what control do they then have over you? Nothing. So maybe the best answer is to just go out and live. Make their rules and regulations a little bit irrelevant to your life. Don't be predictable. Don't do what everybody says you ought to be doing, the right thing, and go out with your friends and family and actually live. Go adventure, go explore, be with friends, love people. Boy, that would scare the bejesus out of these guys, because that's not at all what they think that people should be doing. I don't know, Abraham, what are your thoughts on that? I'm mumbling here.
One thing I'm going to say, having known Sorry, I'm just catching up on my email's blowing up. So
No, that's all right.
That's awesome. That means I got a lot to do before I go to sleep tonight. And
You don't sleep.
yeah, well, I kind of try to sleep. I mean, does trying to sleep count?
Yeah.
So I tell you what, the best thing you can do to sleep is turn off the phone and the computer and just go to sleep.
Yep.
But I'll say this about Intrepid, because he's been kind of that influence as an older guy, probably old enough to be almost my dad, not quite, but he's kind of been that influence on me as well. Don't talk about, don't dream about, don't think about going out and just, riding the wind. Go out and be adventurous. Go do it. Climbing Mount Shasta. That's something that happened a while back. And
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, that's the thing is I had good people like Intrepid around me that said, come on, let's go. We're not sitting around and pissing away another day or, letting the world get us down or being depressed over an ex-girlfriend or none of that. We ain't got time for it. We got too much fun to go have. And let's just go. This guy got paid to fly upside down all day and have fun and do shit in airplanes that you're maybe some airplanes aren't even built to do. But he had a lot of fun doing that. And I saw how much fun he had doing that. And then one day he called me up and said, well, I got a sailboat. And I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. I didn't have any idea that sailboat would turn into my friend here sailing around the entire planet. And he just did it. Like he said, he wasn't an experienced sailor or mariner at the time. He just got on his boat, did it, and that's how he learned. And that's what this country is. That's what we are as Americans. And not just Americans, but other countries too. They have their explorers. We just get out there and we go and do it. You might die doing it, but hell, you're dying doing something that you love. But you can't look at death and be afraid of it or run away from it. And if death comes, don't have regrets while you're laying there dying or drowning or falling. Smile and sing your death song. Embrace it.
Yeah.
But go out and live. Right now, Americans, after being, 2.5 years locked down almost in some respects, most of us just refuse to play the game. I was never locked down. I remember a time trying to do my laundry in the laundromat, and I couldn't find quarters for a week. So I made do. I just hit the girl up at 3 a.m. in the morning when she was filling the quarters in the machine or taking the quarters, getting ready to take them to the bank. And I'm like, here, I got cash. I need quarters. Improvise. Couldn't find any toilet paper in a store within 100 miles. So I went to the automotive store and bought them all out of their blue shop towels and their wipes. And I bought them all out of their RV toilet paper. I refused to be locked down and I refused to go without during COVID. And I was in a very, very economically hard-ridden area. A lot of poor people. But I just refused to play along. And at the same time, my friend here during that period of time was in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And and I thought I had it bad dealing with this shit here at home. He was out there with no food, no water, no fuel, no nothing. Trying to make, because he went through a storm, my understanding, Intrepid, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a pretty bad storm out there, and you were trying to make landfall in India.
One of many.
Yeah, and I put my bullshit aside and I got on the phone and I had some interesting heated discussions with certain countries' coast guards, and I don't care if you're admiral or captain, I don't give a shit. My brother's out in the middle of the ocean. If you don't get off your butt and do your job, you'll see me on Fox News tomorrow. Made it happen. Him and I both made it happen, and he got home. That's what mattered. But the fact that he even took that truck out there, knowing the dangers of going in the ocean, just the obvious, most known about dangerous shit that you can get yourself into. You make one little mistake, you oversleep 5 minutes on a sailboat, and you're not paying attention, you're done. It's that simple. It's like flying a plane. You got to be in the moment. You got to be in the moment all the time. But if you're in the moment, you're having fun. You're not, like Dan Bongino says, don't get dead. He says that almost every day on his radio show.
Yeah, but when you're in the moment, you're living.
You're
also
living.
Why people enjoy being a soldier. It's the same. You're in the moment. You can't worry about what happened in the past. You're not worried about, gee, what's Kardashian going to say in the future. You're living.
Yeah.
You're in the arena. You've got the sweat and the tears and the mud, and you may not like it. God, a lot of times I don't like what I do, but at the end of the day, it's like, I cheated death again. Cool, this is great.
It's a great feeling too, and
It
you don't
is.
have to be an adrenaline junkie. But honestly, when you're in that moment, you're not thinking about anything but the people you care and love about the most, and surviving it. And your own determination in that moment, your own determination to get home. But if you don't make it home, you're comfortable in that. You're okay with it.
Yeah, and I
But
also think that as a person, you grow developing what I would call three great relations: how you relate to yourself, and of course, being in an adventure, any kind, anything. Go camping for a weekend, anything. You're learning about yourself. You're learning about how to do things. You are making it happen. There's nobody going to come save you. You're not asking the government. And of course, how you deal with other people, you have a new perspective. And I know for a fact I had a guardian angel watching over me the whole time, because it's like, damn, how the
oh, you
hell?
had more than a guardian angel. You had a bunch
Yeah,
of people that
a whole bunch of
didn't
people.
really give a shit about you, brother. And we were all
Yeah,
watching. We were sitting there on the computer watching your little boat go across the ocean on the tracker.
yeah, yeah. And I'm still going to do that. I mean, I want to get the boat to see Cortez and get some of my friends and veterans and stuff down there. But that's what we're missing. I mean, you look at how we started in the United States. They were all pioneers. They were adventurers. They had, their eye to the sky. They had an idea, a dream, and they made it happen. And they had all sorts of hardships, but they made it happen. And right now, we're so passive. We're all victims. Help us, government. And of course, the government has only one objective: to have control and power. And imagine, as I said, if you were to just start going out and doing things with your family, with your friends, you'd have no room for government anymore. The government would eventually just decide, God, we don't have anybody actually listening to us anymore. Why did the Soviet Union fall apart in 1992? I think partially because they realized nobody's listening to us. We're irrelevant. But we live in this constant state of fear. It's always one crisis after the next. It was COVID, and now it's Ukraine and Russia. And oh, it's going to be monkeypox. And don't forget about China. And oh my God, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. It's maddening. So at some point, I think we just need to not take our eye off the ball, but say, that's just not going to be my primary focus in life, is to just respond to all these artificial crises that our government creates, but to just spend time with people I like and do things that I enjoy, and get away from all this uh, uh, worship of money and bankers being the new prophets. Forget all that. There's so much you can do without having money. And of course, then there's no control over you. Right now, with all the Biden bucks and the cryptocurrencies and the IRS and everything is money, money, money. And now we're going to control what you could do with your money. And there's social credits because of money. And again, if you just sit and say, well, how can we imagine a different future where we make just enough money to do what we absolutely have to do to survive and nothing else? Because we don't care about the other things. We can make do without using money. Why I think the government real quick would realize we're losing control over this, because they have nothing to control us with. I don't know. My thoughts. I don't know if other people have concept, have other ideas. Glock 2 said through. Yep. Well, Glock, I also live in a trailer. While I'm building my yurt, that's my next dream. Next summer is to build a yurt, and I got a boat. And now, totally unknown to me, I have one of my flight students that's looking to buy another aerobatic airplane that I can fly in and teach in. So It's amazing.
Let me interrupt real quick. I'm gonna read the message actually, and I'll try to remember to do that, guys. So you're not just hearing one side of a comment in the comment section. Some of you guys will have access to the comment section, others may not. But Glock 2 is one of our loyal followers and a member of our team over in the Discord server, and huge contributor. She says, "Yes, me too. I bought a vintage trailer, loaded up, and learned how to pull it and park it. I lived the adventure. I love my life, and I'm old enough to be your mom, Intrepid."
That's great. I love it.
So yeah, and I'll try to remember that. K9 Moses is checking in. Good evening, everybody, and says you were 20 in 1989. He's giving me a hard time there. I was not 20. I don't remember what I was. I wasn't that old though, but and T-Bone's giving me the thumbs up. Thumbs up back to you, brother. I'm glad you're in here with us tonight. But yeah, guys, we're growing this community, and I want to see this community just continue to expand and grow. This is really an amazing opportunity for us, and I hope a huge asset for all of you guys. And that, again, that's kind of what we're. And I'll expand a little bit in the Discord server on what training that we may be doing or teaching or classes. Intrepid's a pilot, and me and him had both, and another friend of ours all taught survival classes to private pilots, what to do in the Rocky Mountain range in the Western U.S. if your plane goes down, and how to survive, how to get to rescue, how to get help. And that was back during good times when we were teaching those classes. The Kenyan was president, but that didn't stop us. We were still teaching and learning and having fun. But those were better times. And now the teaching has kind of gotten a lot more critical, a lot more serious. And now it's time that we pass on our skills and knowledge to all of you folks, and help you expand on your knowledge, and help you have that comfort level to be able to protect yourself. I want to cover one couple of headlines in the news, and I want to clarify some things as I got some text messages and emails in. Tesla powered facility caught fire, area shut down over possible toxic fumes. It was not a Tesla facility, but it was a Tesla powered facility. So let's just clarify that before that gets out in the media and they have it all screwed up. Those old enough to remember Henry Kissinger, he posed for pictures with China's top diplomat, Wang Yi. So that's kind of unsettling, but we all know who and what Henry Kissinger is and was. Those of us that pay attention to not only what's going on in our world right now, but paid attention in school and pay attention to history. And people like him that were a big part of American history, the Vietnam War all the way to the present. So I thought I'd drop that on you. Chuck Schumer says that the U.S. should send an extra $12 billion in aid to Ukraine. Sure. Now, it is in my opinion, and whether anybody agrees with me or not, I have a feeling that a lot of this money is turning around, getting washed, and coming right back. The people that are wanting to push real hard to send it over there are filling their pockets here at home. I can't prove that. I doubt anybody can. I don't even think the best IRS auditor and forensic auditor could figure that one out, but I'll challenge them. You can prove to me one of these yahoos is collecting that money that's supposed to be going over there to help our Ukrainian brothers who are just screaming for freedom. These people just want freedom like us and everyone else, and they're fighting to the death over there to keep it. Granted, Putin, he's the bad guy. He's the ugly one, but there may be a lot more to that story. What's driving, what's behind the reason why Putin wanted to go into Ukraine so bad. And there's been a lot of talk and mention of the biological labs that the United States was funding over there, testing biological weapons. And if that's the case, if that's true, and Putin can prove it, and I guess Putin's already proven it over and over again, but our media refuses to cover that information. And they keep banning everybody on these podcasts and these YouTube channels that does cover it. We were over there doing that in a neutral, non-NATO country, right next door on his border. And if somebody came over here and did that nonsense in Canada or Mexico, I'm pretty sure we would react the same way. But we'll never get to the bottom of what's going on in Russia and Ukraine until we talk to the folks that are there and they come back and they have the information and they share it with us. Be careful who you follow. Be careful of the leaks that are coming out of there. There's a lot of disinformation and misinformation coming out of that conflict. Azerbaijan just attacked. What's their neighbor right there? Armenia. Azerbaijan just attacked Armenia. That's going to play a huge part in Russia's involvement with Turkey getting involved and maybe pushing it to Greece. Right now, the very real threat of Turkey invading Greece is right on the edge of just being a reality right now. So there's two hot zones, conflict zones. I don't have my other map up tonight, or I'd show you guys kind of the hot zones around the planet. I just didn't load that up. It would have took a lot of time to get it going tonight, so I apologize. Next time I'll make sure to have that up for you. A couple more. The United States is going to reveal the new B-21 stealth bomber in December of this year. That's the word on the street. I'm fascinated by flying and aircraft, always have been. Get excited about new technologies and things. The F-35, the F-22. The B-21 bomber is one of those black bag projects that our government doesn't have to report on. The money disappears and they stay out there in California and design these aircraft, and they're top secret, but they're going to reveal the 21. We have the B1 and the B2 and the B52. This will be the B21. It's an interesting looking aircraft. It kind of resembles the B1, or not the B1, the B2 bomber. The B1 being the swept wing bomber that we've had around since the Vietnam War. The B2 bomber is the one that looks like a bat, and Monkey covers that. Those here in the chat that are not familiar with Monkey Works is a channel on YouTube that's a huge asset. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he does his sit reps. We do ours on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you haven't checked him out, get over there and check him out. Monkey Works on YouTube. WERX, Monkey Works. And even if you spell it wrong, it'll still pop up. Don't worry. He's got a presence out there, and we all love Monkey. We respect and admire the work that man is doing and the risks that he's taken to do what he's doing, because he loves his country. He's a veteran, Air Force veteran, and he's a patriot. So those are just a few of the headlines. I'm not going to go over all of them, guys, because we'll be here all night. I do want to cut this here pretty quickly. It'll be an hour and a half. We got about 7 minutes left. Really, the only other information that I want to cover is the supply chain real quick. I want to go over that. We are starting to see the lack of boats in the Long Beach Harbor and the ports, Seattle, Oakland, all those other ports. We're starting to now see the effects of that. If you want to get an air conditioner unit replaced, you're looking at January to March of next year before you'll get parts or materials to do that. If you're wanting to see automotive parts, you may have to start hitting the pick and pulls, because brand new Asian built cars and a lot of the American parts that are manufactured in Asia and China specifically are disappearing off the shelves. And it's months out in ordering these parts. I remember a year and a half ago, or not a year and a half ago, about roughly 7-8 months ago, even 7-8 months ago, I had a hell of a time getting parts I needed to fix my vehicle. And it took 2-3 weeks to get that stuff. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. And I know a lot of the mechanic shops, diesel shops specifically, all across the country are weeks, if not months behind trying to keep up with these vehicles. They're trying to keep running on the road. If the rail goes down, we're going to see the trucking industry severely impacted by that. That'll all be, of course, part of the reason why the price of food will keep going up. And I've been paying a little bit of attention, and I'll try to get a better report for you guys by Thursday on Walmart. I'm just going to use Walmart as an example because they're kind of the most common grocer shopping store franchise out there in the United States and Canada for our Canadian guys that are in there. I'll try to get some better data, more specific by Thursday, but the prices seem to be going up anywhere from 20, maybe 30 and 40 cents every week on product that's on the shelf. And the shelves are emptying out. I mean, it's getting harder and harder and harder to get things, and it's only going to get tougher. And by the middle of this winter, December and January of this winter, we're gonna see a lot of things we can't get no more. I honestly expected to see avocados disappear by now. They have not yet, but I'm sure that's coming. And when the avocados go, towards the end, and right now I can see it because the quality in the food product is piss poor. You go to the store to get avocados, and they're all garbage, in my opinion. Not like I used to get out in the West Coast. And even good stores out in the East Coast, I could get really, really good avocados. I can't find them anywhere now. So just keep an eye on that. Make sure you're stocking up on food. Guys, also stock up on water. If you empty a milk jug at home or a tea jug or something, don't just throw it in the trash. Hang on to those empty bottles and start filling them up with water. Just from my own knowledge, my schooling, and my experience in combat and warfare is if you want to take out the enemy without taking out all your guys while you're doing it, the easiest, quickest, fastest, most devastating way to attack your enemy is to hit their water supply. So I'm not saying we should expect a terrorist attack on our water supply, but it wouldn't take much to do that. And all the bad guys know almost as much as the good guys do. That's why they teach us these things. So make sure you're stocking up on water. Get you the tools you need to be able to take and sterilize your water, make it safe to drink. If you live in a building or a house or an apartment, start thinking about a way to keep it warm this winter. I'm not really going to go into detail live on a podcast about how to do it, but it's kind of like building a kind of a temporary, throw it all together, make it work, make it safe fireplace in your house using a window and a 55-gallon drum. I'll let you guys go to the other YouTube channels and figure out how that works. I'm not going to be responsible for somebody burning themselves down. But those are things you need to think about. If it's going to be a cold winter, and I think it's going to be an early and a colder winter this year in some places, and it won't be in others, but I'm pretty sure where I'm at, it's going to be cold no matter what. What if the power goes out? If the trains stop running, the coal can't get to the power plant. They can't stockpile enough coal to keep the power plant burning. Boom, the lights go out. So that's just something to think about, guys. Buy extra blankets, get you a subtropical sleeping bag, one of those 30 or 50 below zero type of deals. Right now is the time to go look at your Army surplus stores and your Walmarts and look for those extreme cold weather sleeping bags. Some refer to them as a 4-season bag. But just start making sure you got those little things that you need, a way to start fires, things that are flammable that you can use to start a fire, and a shelter. And because the veterans were bringing this up a few weeks ago, and we did cover it a little bit, your priorities need to be shelter, water, food, and your security in that order. You got to be able to shelter from the elements because the elements will kill you quick. Ask Intrepid, he knows very much about that being in the ocean. Shelter, you got to be able to get yourself warm or dry. The second most important thing you need is water. You're not going to go much past 3 days and survive with no water. Got to hydrate your body. Food, 7 to 10 days in the average guy. Big built husky fella will go about 7 or 10 days before he's too weak to hunt for food or look for food. And your final most important asset to have in your toolbox, guys, is your security. Whatever you have, a means to protect yourself. That protection can be used for many things. It can also be used to signal. It can be used to kill game and provide a meal. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. Intrepid, I'm going to let you finish this out, brother.
Yeah, thanks.
No, I jumped it on you this time.
No, that's all right. I'm just thinking. Yeah, I mean,
winter's coming, brother.
Use your brains, people. Everybody's intelligent. Use your mind. Don't think institutionally. Don't be predictable. And realize that, when loved ones die, or when you look at veterans that have died or veterans that have lost limbs, why did they do that? What's the best way that you can honor their sacrifice? Is to live. Go out and live. don't just exist. My comments before may be taken in one sense that, well, maybe he's not that patriotic. He's out doing all these things. But that's what America is. That's what founded this country, is people had the ability to go and live. That's why we became the United States. That's why we're not, British anymore with monarchs and everybody that supposedly is better than we average person are. You don't want to be a serf, but we're dishonoring all these people by existing, by just following what government and all these morons tell us to do. Don't do that. Go out and explore. Go live. Go be with loved ones. Um, that's the name of the game. Because at the end of your life, you don't want to look back and say, "Well, gee, I was a good comrade." No, you want to go back and say, "Whoa." Come sliding in sideways, beat up, bloodied, and think, what a ride. Oh my God. I'm ready to do it again in the next life.
I was not a good comrade. I was a righteous rebel.
That's right. Be a righteous rebel. Live. Explore. Find out about what you can do, what your abilities are, what your fears are, what your aspirations are. Be honest to yourself. And for God's sakes, don't just fall in line waiting for the next, batch of government cheese to come your way. I mean, I don't know, that whole thinking is just so foreign to me. And I think to a lot of people in my generation, but unfortunately the younger generation, let's get the metaverse. Let's live virtually. Well, why don't you go outside and live, for God's sakes? Anyways, that's how I'll end it tonight, Abraham.
Sounds good. One thing to leave everybody with, and we're going to say good night. And the migrants, the 50 migrants that went to Martha's Vineyard that were relocated to the nearest Cape Cod, Joint Base Cape Cod,
oh, God.
Coast Guard and Reserve Unit Base. Guys, there's nothing worse on this planet than a lying politician except a truthful lawyer. Every one of these sorry bastards ran to those migrants as fast as they could get to that military base and said, I'm going to make you rich. We're going to sue DeSantis. That's the country and the world we live in right now. So you guys will probably see that pop up in the media in the next couple of days anyway. But they're going to make it official, and they're going to get all 50 migrants that had to take that terrible. How many of you have flown on a Learjet or a Gulfstream? I mean, these people were flown first class to Martha's Vineyard. DeSantis didn't put them on a commercial flight. That was a chartered flight. And that was a hell of a nice jet. Not a lot. I've ridden around on a few of them. I think INTREPID has as well. But wow, most Americans will never ever set foot on a Gulfstream or a nice Lear private plane like that. But you'll probably hear about that in the news anytime now. And of course, I'm sure they'll make sure it's a Washington, D.C. federal lawsuit filing. So that way, all the leftists in D.C. can make sure that DeSantis loses that case. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes. I don't have any updates on Trump. I don't really have anything else, guys.
No.
There's a lot of threats coming out of Russia on Ukraine and a lot of nuclear threats, coming out of the Kremlin. So just keep eyes on it. If it goes nuclear, we all lose.
Yep.
But in the meantime, our job is to stay alive and survive. That's our duty. And make sure we all get out and vote in November. So I'm going to leave it with that. Intrepid, September 20th, 2022. It is roughly 21:04 p.m. in Denver. So I'm glad everybody made it tonight. Thank you very much for taking your time out of your evening to come here for an hour and a half and hang out with us. And we encourage you to share next time. Don't be afraid to jump on the comments. Don't be afraid to jump in there with the StreamYard link and hook up with us. Patreon is there for you to sign up. It's $5 a month. There's a Discord server. It's an interactive server where you guys can actually directly communicate with us on the regular day and night. And kind of keep up with what's going on. A lot of the information that's on Discord is not in the podcast, the Sitrep, and it's also not over in the Patreon, versus a lot of the information in Patreon will not be posted over in the Discord server. So it benefits you to hook up, sign up $5 a month, and help support us. The bottom of the screen is a PayPal account if those that want to donate and contribute. If you can't do that, take your $5 and go buy food and buy water, and make sure that you got your family comfortable and secure as much as possible. Got an extra $5, throw it at us. It helps keep this thing going. This is not an inexpensive venture. So we appreciate everybody being here. For those on YouTube, do that little clicky like, subscribe, and all that other horse shit. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But we appreciate the support, guys, and thank you for being here. Thank you, Intrepid. I appreciate your time tonight as well.
Yeah, no worries. We're back on Thursday, right?
We are back Thursday night.
All right. I'll be here.
Roger that. Everybody, take care. God bless.
Drep it out.